Hi, my name's Joey, and today we'll be talking about bone conditioning. In martial arts, it's very common to see bone conditioning techniques. Things like striking different things, blocking, and even breaking falls. The idea being that these techniques will make our bones denser and stronger. When we think about bones, we tend to think about these dried up things in our body. But in reality, they're actually organs. And like other organs in our body, they have their own blood supply and they go through metabolic changes all the time. And some of these processes would result in a stronger bone.
One of these processes is called bone remodeling. During this process, the osteoclasts, which are the bone cell version of a wrecking crew, break down the bone matrix. Afterwards, the osteoblast bone cell, which is basically a bone builder, builds new matrix. This bone matrix will be stronger and more dense. Some of those osteoblasts will turn into osteocytes, which are mature bone cells. Under the right conditions, this process would lead to a bone that is stronger and more dense. And we can affect the way our bone grows with our actions. This principle can be seen in Wolff's Law. According to Wolff's Law, a bone will grow more dense and strong in direct proportion to the stress it receives in the direction of the stress it received. In other words, under the right conditions, stress would lead to a stronger bone. But the question is, what exactly do we mean by stress? So we are going to make a list of 3 types of stress that can help us build bone. The first kind of stress we're going to talk about is muscular stress. This stress is caused from the pull of the muscles on the bone processes they connect to. A good example of this kind of stress can be seen in a study done in Hungary on the skeletons of archers. The researchers dug up skeletons from the same time period. Some of the skeletons were buried with bows and arrows, while others weren't. The skeletons with the bows and arrows were found to have larger processes on their bones in the places where the muscles that are relevant for pulling a bow would connect to. What this basically means is that these archers had to develop muscles so they can pull the bows, and those muscles created changes to their skeletons in such a way that even today, while looking at their skeletons, we can tell they were archers. The next type of stress we will talk about is caused by external force. This kind of stress occurs from outside forces, like carrying a heavy weight. We can see this kind of bone-building stress in action in a 2017 study done on women with osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a condition where the bone loses its density. This will leave the bone more susceptible to breaks. In the study, these women were exposed to high-intensity training, which involved lifting heavy weights. The study showed that the heavy weightlifting enhanced their bones in a way that was superior to previous methods. The third kind of stress is impact. We can see this in a 2008 study that showed that children that were involved in jumping in their PE at school had a significantly higher bone density than those that did not jump in PE. And it's the stress caused by impact we want to focus on, because that's what bone conditioning in martial arts basically is. So in theory, yeah, these bone conditioning techniques we see in martial arts should work. But what do scientific studies say? We'll get into that in 1 second, but first we need to make some clarifications. As you may have noticed, while talking about Wolff's Law, impact, stress, bone remodeling, we never mentioned making any damage to the bone. And that's because we don't want to. It's a very big misconception in martial arts that we need to damage the bone to make it stronger. While damaging the bone will engage our bone building cells, it is not necessary and could have some pretty negative ramifications. Things like longer recovery times, or creating weak points near the newly built bone, or sometimes creating problems in mobility depending on where the damage was done. So to avoid this kind of damage to the bone while doing bone conditioning, we should keep in mind discomfort, not pain. Now, in regards to scientific studies on bone conditioning in martial arts, unfortunately, there's not a lot. Initially, most of the studies we came by were research that checked the bone density of different martial artists. After digging a bit deeper, we were able to find 3 studies that actually checked bone conditioning techniques. The first was a 2015 pilot study. This study was only done on 1 person, hoping that in the future they will be able to do further studies. During the experiment, The participant was asked to hit a punching bag for 100 days in a row. During the first 33 days, the punching bag was filled with rice. During the following 33 days, the punching bag was filled with pebbles. And during the remaining 34 days, the participant punched the bag filled with small metal pellets. At the end of the 100-day period, not only did the participant not have any damage to both of his hands, but he was able to increase his bone density in his right arm by 2.1% and in his left arm by 1.6%. The next study was done in Beijing Sport University in 2019. The study was done on Sanda competitors. Sanda is a competitive martial art that involves kicks, punches, and throws. 16 Sanda practitioners participated in the experiment. They were divided into two groups of 8, control and experiment. Both groups continued their daily Sanda training, but the experiment group had extra training involving forearm conditioning. The experiment group was also instructed not to bring themselves to a place of pain while conducting the bone conditioning techniques. We can see that at the end of 12 weeks, both groups, control and experiment, shown an improvement in bone density. This is not surprising since Sanda involves a lot of impact, but the experiment group has shown a significantly larger increase in bone density when compared to the control group. The third study we're going to look at was a study done on karate practitioners, checking the health of their hands. 22 karate practitioners participated in the study. Out of the 22 karate practitioners, 17 of them have trained with a makiwara. The study did not show any correlation between the makiwara training and damage to the hand or its mobility. So yeah, in theory, bone conditioning techniques should work. And although there's not a lot of studies on the subject, the small amount we do have point in that direction. Now, if we are going to do these kind of techniques, we need to be careful not to damage our bones. So be careful not to work into the pain. Okay, that's the end of the video. I hope you liked it. Please do check out our channel, maybe subscribe, maybe check another video. Till then, I've been Joey, and this was Martial Arts Science.